Hello, everybody. It's Lenny Murphy from Green Book here with another one of our CEO series of interviews. And today, one that I am particularly excited about because, quick story, LRW through Dave Sackman and Jeff Reynolds were actually one of my very first consulting clients. So everything that's happened over the last 10 years, you can blame them because it's really kind of their fault. So they put this idea in my head that I knew what the hell that I was talking about and that people would pay me to actually do that. So Dave and Jeff, welcome.
Hey, Lenny.
How are you?
It's good to get to hang out with you for a little bit.
I told you it was good.
So you're not trying to pass the buck on what I just said. You're accepting the blame then.
No, you were super helpful. It was great to hear an outside perspective. That was a long time ago. When was that?
Gosh, 8 years ago, at least, something like that. So.
Yeah, it's been fun to see what you've done with your platform. I think it's ended up adding a lot of value and perspective in our industry. So.
Well, thanks, and that's a good segue because talk about platforms. Now, you guys are building a hell of a platform. So you could probably describe that journey a hell of a lot better than I can. So, let's talk about this, the last 2-3 years since the Tailwind investment, and you've been going through a whole slate of acquisitions, and especially this year. I mean, my goodness, you've bitten off, 5, 6 acquisitions this year alone? So let's talk about that.
5 this year. 5 this year, 3 in the last 30 days. So our journey, though, starts even before Tailwind. So a couple or more decades ago, we had introduced a strategy of what we could develop with insights and analytics being at the core of ultimately building a marketing services business. And then when we partnered with Tailwind in 2016, and described this vision to them, and they decided to support it, we actually had the opportunity to build it out. So the journey we're on was born a long time ago when there was a need from the C-suite for it. And fortunately, the need still exists, and nobody's fulfilled that need. So we're building, what we like to say is, we're building an analytics-driven marketing services company powered by data, sophisticated analytics, and deep human understanding. And that ultimately we're building companies and we're building brands from the inside out, where insights and analytics is at the core of everything we do and is what differentiates us from a J. Walter Thompson or a McKinsey or a Kantar.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique spot because we're certainly not the first company to think about getting these different types of capabilities under one roof. But the idea that a data-driven company like us with a 50-year legacy with data and kind of deep human understanding at the core would drive it out from there and do it in an integrated fashion, we think produces something that's pretty different.
I would agree. If we look at the house of brands scenario or the holding company scenario, that's been fairly common, right? WPP with Kantar, Omnicom, Engine, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of companies have went down that path, but that integration was really never there. And that was certainly something that, putting on my consulting hat, as we would talk to brand clients that were really frustrated by that, right? That disconnection between the activation side of the business and the insight side of the business, and the need to go through 10 different account reps through 10 different parts of the organization, depending on the project. That was a real point of friction across the board. So I think that you're one of the first that I'm aware of that actively has gone down that path. I mean, there's other companies, HotSpecs is trying to go down that path now. Engine Group, I think they're going down that path. Even back in the day, Brain Juicer or System One, when they opened up their agency, but no one at the scale that you're tackling. And I look at your acquisitions as being very, very tactical, right? You've got an infographics or visualization-based company. You've had innovation agency with Kelton. You've had the much more branding and marketing oriented organizations. really putting the pieces of the puzzle together in a way that you're living up to that potential of being a fully integrated marketing services company driven by insights and analytics. I think it's you're really pioneering a new category.
Well, I think our size gives us an advantage. The fact that we're not as large as these big holding companies. The holding companies really were financially engineered. They acquired a bunch of assets, some of them the best in the industry. But by the time they realized that they wanted to bring them all together as a single offering to help solve a client's problems, there were entrenched cultures in billion-dollar businesses. You couldn't just bring them together. So here we are this year, about $300 million in size. It's a good size for everybody in our organization to understand that we're ultimately building one company differentiated by its use of insights to drive action for clients and solving problems better. And so right now, it looks like we've got this sort of family of brands or house of brands, lots of different companies. But that's just part of the process of first assembling, building and assembling all the capabilities. And now that we have at least the wireframe of this vision of what we're building, now it's about bringing it together into a single company. So we're moving to a single P&L. We're going through a branding evaluation right now to evaluate what should that visual identity and brand for this one company offering analytics-driven marketing services be. And ultimately, we're taking a client strategy that says we bring a cross-functional, cross-company, interdisciplinary client service team to better understand your problems and bring solutions to them.
Yeah, I'm a fan of trying to really think about these problems from the client lens. And if you just think about the transition from the days when this holding company world became a strategy 20, 25 years ago versus now. Think about how much the CMO's job has changed. One of our kind of core primary clients, and that job has gotten so challenging. There used to be a few tools to go out to the tool shed to fix things, TRPs, is it going to be here or there? And that world has exploded. And now it's hard for them to figure out, is it a customer service problem, an innovation problem, a brand problem, a strategy problem? And when you start trying to solve it, you may end up in a different place than you began with. And so the fact that you have all these agency silos is actually part of the problem. And what you really need is really creative thinkers who can come together and collaborate. And that is ultimately the problem we're solving. Now, I'm not naive to think that different people with different levels of specialization are going to always just easily speak different languages and come together. But if we begin with the end in mind, if we're building it at this level with that as the goal, over the next 5 to 10 years, we think we can build something that's really different in the way that we can approach the most wicked problem that clients have and bring together really creative thinking for hopefully breakthrough ideas, not just incremental change.
It just occurred to me. So you're building the Mayo Clinic of insights, right? Thinking of, you guys know some of my own history of the health stuff, and that was, when I finally decided that I needed an answer, I went to Mayo because that interdisciplinary approach, right? That They were going to bring all the right people in to address the issue rather than the friction that exists between the silos. And so, sorry, it's a very kind of selfish perspective to think about that, but as you're talking about this, that's not bad branding either, right? The Mayo of brand strategy and insights. That makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah, you're seeing it exactly right, Lenny.
You're absolutely seeing it right. And another analogy is an orchestra. Think of an orchestra. It's got all the different areas of specialization, and each one by themselves sounds pretty darn good, but they sound nothing like they do when they all play together in, synchronicity.
Yeah, and about a year ago, we could anticipate the challenge of this orchestration coming together more because we knew what our strategy was. So we brought in a very talented woman named Rachel Spiegelman, who'd run her own agency before this, that was a marketing agency, and we asked her to start building out the team, the capability, the processes, the roles that are going to enable us to bring these things together. And so while that is a work in process and will be for some time, we're thinking deeply about how you pull it off, because to use your Mayo Clinic example, the folks from these different specialties truly operate under different ways of thinking and different skills, and you need to put the glue together that's actually going to make it work together, and that doesn't happen overnight. So we're working hard on that, and TBD could be a good topic for something 12 or 24 months from now, because we're going to make some progress.
Good. Well, and I'm wondering if both of you using the term orchestra, if we just got a sneak peek into one of the potential brands that you're looking at, because that's not a bad one either.
You did not, but maybe you did.
The Los Angeles Inside Our Minds. We'll give it a try then.
All right. So, and again, congratulations on where you guys have gone. It's been exciting to watch. And full disclosure, early on, I had the opportunity to actually try and participate a little bit in the process with helping to identify some companies. None of that ever worked, unfortunately. But it was fun to have a sense of where your strategy was going as you go down this path, and to see that play out. So, what comes next? Right? You obviously have the integration, everything we just talked about. But where do you see the company being 2 years out from now? What's the next phase of growth and development?
Yeah, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, those are all pretty different time horizons. So this is a part of our strategy now. Like I've been at LRW now 16 years, and I was there when we were just a privately held founder-led company, and when we wanted to do something different, we usually just hired one person. So we're playing with some different tools now when we can bring in companies and capabilities. So we're going to keep doing that, and I can't say at what pace, because we really look very deeply for cultural fit, for strong leaders, for people that share our vision, and they don't necessarily come along in any sort of linear path. So we'll keep looking, but we'll build it out really on the action side, where we're trying to find the right kind of capabilities to drive into the organizations. So, Dave used the term wireframe before. We've made good starts on that, but there is scale to be gained. There are still capabilities we don't have. I think we'd like to be stronger in the innovation space. And then on the insight side, there's, as you know better than anybody, there's technology evolution that's going on. There's continual movement of the behavioral sciences that could create opportunities to improve our deep human understanding, and then maybe more around big data analytics, predictive analytics, and then there's probably international expansion, because right now we're largely domestically based. We have some operations over in London and in Europe, and we do tremendous business with multinationals all over the world, but that's a likely realm. But now we're talking 2, 5, 10 years, so it'll be a continual work in progress.
Okay. Now, part of that conversation, obviously, when you work with a partner like Tailwind, a private equity partner, the clock starts ticking towards some type of exit event, because that's what they're in business to do, right? And that average is around 5 years. So are you beginning to think about what that next partnership looks like, and what some of those strategies may be?
Yeah, so a lot of folks frame that question about exit, sort of when's the next exit. And what I say is that we're going through a building process. This is a journey that we've been looking forward to a long time. We've been having fun with our success, grown from $100 million roughly just a few years ago to 300 today. And there's a lot more work to be done. So what will happen is we've had a really terrific private equity partner in Tailwind, and they've been incredibly supportive and allowed us to accomplish what we've been accomplishing. What will happen is there will be a new partner. As you said, private equity groups tend to think of roughly 5-year time horizons, kind of 3 to 7 years. and we're actually coming up on 5 years. So do we think about what's next? Absolutely. Do we have clarity about timing? Absolutely not. We're enjoying what we're doing. Tailwind is liking what we're doing. We're one of their better performing portfolio companies. They're a great partner to us. They're happy with us. So we'll just keep building and we'll keep evaluating. And at some point in time, there will be some transaction and Tailwind will exit and a new partner will join. But there's nothing definitive.
Yeah, my lens on it is that if we are creating value, if we are really building something that helps the world, that helps our clients, and that is an exciting platform for success, we're going to like our options because that's something that people want to be a part of. That's a value creation exercise, not some sort of financial engineering exercise. And so with our strategy that we've talked about today and with the success we're having, it feels like there's just lots and lots of exciting possibilities ahead.
Yeah, I would agree. Something that just occurred to me, we don't talk often about that you actually do have some other brands. Interviewing Service of America and your qualitative groups and soapbox, they've always kind of stood alone, right, to the side. So in the strategy of a single P&L, et cetera, are those companies, those kind of legacy companies that have been here before you ever set on this journey, are they going to be folded into that as well, or are they going to kind of continue as a little bit of a side project?
Yeah, no, it's one company. So we're actually organized into perspective, action, and shared and other services. So a lot of what ISA does serves the LRW group of businesses, and a lot of what it does serves folks like Kantar and Ipsos. And so we'll continue to offer those services, and they'll be part of the operational elements of our business with clients outside of the LRW group and serving the LRW group.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Just one of those, oh, wait, what about that type of question. So guys, you've had just a hell of a year. And what's the mood within the company at this point across the board? I mean, a lot of hard work, lots of new people. How are you dealing with that cultural integration as you end this kind of hallmark year for LRW?
Why don't you share that 2016 chart and what we talked about?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts. So one, really important to note, because we don't extend PR press releases on our success of our organic business, we're actually having the strongest organic growth year in at least a decade. And so I feel like our business is sort of flourishing on all fronts, not just this acquisition. And because this makes the news, it does tend to overemphasis on that. We still think we're doing phenomenal work for our clients and gaining traction and new fans every day there. So we're working really hard to balance the existing legacy core businesses and some of the exciting new directions. But the question you ask, particularly in a professional services environment, is the question. Like, strategy is great, but like, are our people motivated and journeying along with us? And Dave's referencing back in 2016 when the strategy was hatched, I think we understood that for a business that had been privately held and run with sort of a single owner for, at the time, 43 years, it was going to be a lot of change. And so we have worked very hard to continue to communicate with our organization and with our leadership team. We actually, in the fall of 2016, put up a slide for our senior managers where we played out, this is how the organization is going to evolve. And I actually used an infographic to sort of show how many people we had then and how those people would flow over the next handful of years, and pulled that out last week to just look at it. And almost to the nose, we thought we'd be in this, next year will be about $320 million in revenue. and 1,300 employees, and we told everyone we'd be 350 in revenue and 1,400 employees. So from the standpoint of, while it's feeling very different, we've been trying to bring people along in that journey with us. And then at the same time, we eat our own dog food. You know, every year we are
eat our own dog food.
Oh yeah. Meaning we sell insights and we spend time with our own data to understand how our own employees are feeling. We do it annually, and we actually do it weekly, trying to keep a close eye on, is the experience changing in some way that's not good. And while we have grown a lot, I still think our employee engagement is a very strong level for a host of good reasons. So,
Lenny, part of how we're building this business, which also is different potentially than others, is one of the core lenses that we're looking at acquisition targets is through a cultural lens, which is, do their core cultural values fit with and or overlap our core cultural values? And we passed on deals with very good companies that weren't good cultural fits. And so we're devoting a lot of time, even before making the acquisition, to cultural integration. The feedback that we're getting from our employees to date is that it's going well. We've gone from about 400 employees, as Jeff said, to about 1,300 employees, and we haven't broken the culture yet. There's still lots of room for us to screw up, but we are just maniacal about our focus on making sure that the culture remains what drives our performance.
Yeah. For example, T3 that joined us just last week, our most recent and our largest deal to date, and a really, really talented digital innovation agency out of Austin. But personally, as we got to know them and understood them, it was founded by a woman named Gay Gaddis, who's extremely well known, really nationally and certainly in the Texas region as this entrepreneurial, powerful leader that started this firm over 30 years ago. And so as we watch the shall we say, generational change of that business, now her son Ben Gaddis leads the business, but how they've turned into the analytics space from maybe a traditional marketing agency 30 years ago, as they've relied on culture, as they develop their people and are so committed to that journey of their employees. We find that and we think, gosh, these are folks that have the same beliefs that we do. And so that helps us feel really good when we're trying to build one company, when we can find that kind of cultural DNA for new companies that do different things than we do.
Very cool. So let me cautious of time, but one last question. A few years ago, you were incubating and developing a lot of early stage technologies like virtual reality, right? You were touring around for VR sets at all the conferences, right? And Dave, I know that you spun that off, well, the company kind of created another company that's focused on healthcare through virtual reality. But do you see a path where you will continue to try and incubate and develop new technologies or incorporate some of these other solutions that may come along as part of your strategy, or are you focusing more on kind of the existing pieces that you have?
So first, a quick plug for Applied VR. So you're right, LRW was the birth of the concept of that business, and it was spun off in 2016. They've raised a little over $25 million and are generally considered the leading medical virtual reality company. And they're on quite a path to an RX or prescription strategy and FDA clearance. It was great experience for us to learn how to use our innovation capabilities to develop the germ of an idea that we could then nurture and develop. One of the really terrific things that Jeff has brought to the company is the idea of constant innovation. We probably had much more episodic innovation prior to Jeff coming to his leadership role, and now it's a constant focus on innovation. So we'll continue, as we often say, experimenting our way to success. We often talk about bullets before cannons, have lots of small experiments going, developing lots of new different things. And then when one looks like it can develop traction, then we put a big investment behind it. And in the case of Applied VR, we spun it out. Probably in the case of most things that we develop, we'll just develop them to fuel the LRW group.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is you can't even predict the course of innovation because in and of itself is a pretty organic event. So just to take 4 innovations, the applied VR one, something starts here and we realize it's probably a bigger opportunity outside of marketing, and so that's why that business spun out. On the other hand, pragmatic brain science, the use of the behavioral and neurosciences more applied, was perfect, and we launched that and drove it into the organization, and that type of applied behavioral science is now impacting maybe 25% of our revenue. Something like social media analytics, we were building it internally. We'd had a team of 3. We thought we were doing good things, and then we see an outside company like MotiveQuest that's already at a much better level of maturation. That leads us to an acquisition. We integrate those 2 innovations, and then lastly, we're doing some work in digital analytics right now that fuse the survey research kind of attitudinal or psychological aspect with the behavioral. And that right now has been sort of an upstart internal innovation that we've been doing now for probably 3 years. And while we still scan the landscape to say, is there something at scale? I think what we're doing there is so innovative that there's no one else even doing it. So we continue to nurture that under the leadership of the company, and we continue to invest in driving it into the organization. So those just represent 4 different paths of how we use that innovation and how it has a different course depending on what ends up happening in that crazy, crazy world.
Is there anything you're excited about right now, outside of what we just talked about, that there's something that thinks, you know what, we need to pay attention to this thing?
This isn't enough? We've got our hands full.
Lenny, we could tell you, but we'd have to kill you.
Well, based on our Facebook going back and forth, Jeff, I'm sure you think that pretty often. But the we won't go there. Anyway, guys, this has been great. And again, congratulations. It's just such a joy to see wonderful people like you and your whole team, but to accomplish so much in such a short period of time. It's really pretty amazing. So hats off.
Thanks. It's fun to do it.
All right, so we will let's pencil in doing this again this time next year, so we can see what other cool stuff has happened since then.
That sounds like accountability.
Well, with some wiggle room, right? Murphy's Law is in effect, so we'll figure it out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for the time. This has been great, and we'll look forward to chatting again soon.
Great,
thanks, Lenny.